In a dimly lit room tucked inside a modest apartment in Jakarta, 22-year-old Aryan lived a life most would call ordinary. He worked part-time at an internet cafe, fixing computers, resetting passwords, and occasionally installing games for kids. But behind his quiet demeanor and soft-spoken words hid a mind that operated like a supercomputer, sharp, calculating, and dangerously creative. From the age of 9, Aryan had fallen in love with coding. He didn't learn from teachers. He learned from the internet. Forums, open-source repositories, underground chat rooms. By 14, he was building AI bots. By 16, he could break into secure servers just for fun. It was never about money. For Aryan, hacking was art. But as he grew older, a sense of restlessness took root. He watched the world suffer. Economic collapse in one country, corruption in another, banks hoarding wealth while millions starved. He didn't see lines between right and wrong, only systems. And he believed systems could be rewritten. Aryan created an alias, Phantom Root. Under this name, he infiltrated hidden parts of the web, forums where elite hackers met, sold tools, and shared secrets. He never revealed his identity. He listened, learned, and built his own digital empire in silence. Over time, Phantom Root gained a reputation, not for theft or destruction, but for precision. He could enter a system, take what he needed, and vanish without a trace. One night, as Jakarta buzzed in monsoon rain, Aryan stared at the blinking cursor on his screen. His plan was ready. He wasn't going to steal from one man or one company. He was going after the world's largest offshore international banking system, a digital fortress that held nearly $5,000 billion in assets. Untouchable. Or so they thought. He didn't want the money for himself. His plan was complex: reroute billions into fake charities, encrypted wallets, and sleeper accounts across the globe. Funds would slowly find their way into education systems, hospitals, climate funds. No fingerprints, no demands, just redistribution. The heist took 72 hours of non-stop execution. Firewalls fell, algorithms ran. By the time the bank's systems began to realize something was wrong, it was already over. And Phantom Root? He had vanished. The world erupted in chaos. Media dubbed it the heist of the millennium. Global markets shook, government agencies scrambled, cybersecurity firms were baffled. And in Jakarta, Aryan went back to fixing a cracked laptop screen like nothing had happened. But he knew they'd come. 2 weeks later, they did. A black SUV, 5 agents, a tranquilizer dart. He woke up in an interrogation room, chained, blood dried at the corner of his lip. Across from him sat a woman in a navy suit. No badge, just cold eyes. "Why'd you do it?" she asked. Aryan smiled faintly. Because someone had to. He was declared a high-level cybercriminal and moved to a secret prison off the coast of an undisclosed country. No communication, no tech, concrete and steel. But even walls couldn't contain a mind like his. He began to observe the guards, their routines, their devices, weaknesses. Over months, he manipulated the digital locks through a smartwatch he hacked, using only a prison cafeteria chip and copper wire he scavenged from broken cameras. And one stormy night, Aryan disappeared. They never found him. But occasionally, banks across the world still suffer mysterious errors. Billions appear in unexpected places: disaster zones, orphanages, community schools. No patterns, no names. Only one signature remains. The world's most secure financial institution, Global Reserve International Bank, had never been breached, not once in over 4 decades of operation. Located in Geneva and virtually impenetrable, its digital infrastructure was considered a fortress built on layers of AI defense, quantum encryption, and biometric firewalls. Nations stored their wealth here. Even governments feared its collapse, until one man shattered it all. His name was still unknown, but on the deep web, he was feared and revered as Phantom Root, a ghost in the system, a myth whispered among black hat hackers and cybersecurity experts alike. No trace, no clue, no signature, just results. But this time, He wasn't after a challenge. He was after a revolution. Months of silent preparation led to a single night. The plan was so complex, so daring, that even a microsecond of hesitation would have failed it. But Phantom Root didn't hesitate. At exactly 2:03 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, an anomaly appeared in the bank's back-end systems. A harmless-looking line of code quietly triggered a cascade of scripts that disabled anomaly detection, looped internal system logs, and created a digital mirror of the bank's ledger. For 6 minutes, the real and the fake ran side by side, indistinguishable. In those 6 minutes, $5,000 billion vanished, broken into thousands of microtransactions, rerouted through crypto layers, shell corporations, and encrypted vaults scattered across 97 countries. A digital ghost trail, constantly evolving, rewriting itself every 10 seconds. By the time the system registered the loss, it was too late. Even the bank's emergency shutdown protocol had been tampered with. The heist was clean. The next morning, chaos erupted. News outlets broke the story with trembling urgency. Stock markets plummeted. The world's top economic advisors were called in. Governments froze unrelated accounts out of panic. CEOs of global finance firms resigned overnight. Social media exploded with conspiracy theories. And behind closed doors, the true scale of the damage was revealed. Entire national budgets wiped out. Black ops funds exposed. Secret military slush accounts gone. The U.S. president called it the greatest cyber attack in human history. The IMF declared a digital emergency. Interpol, the FBI, MI6, Mossad, and even rogue intelligence networks from Russia and China formed a joint task force, unprecedented in history. They called it Operation Black Phantom. Every hacker arrested in the past 20 years was questioned. Every digital footprint, every anomaly, every signal ping was investigated. The top 10 cybersecurity firms in the world offered a combined $1 billion reward for information. But there was nothing. Phantom Root had planned every detail, even down to the misinformation. Dozens of false leads led to different continents: Canada, Ukraine, Nigeria, India, Argentina. Every clue a dead end, every trace a deliberate lie. Then came the tapes. Anonymous video messages appeared online, each signed with the same digital watermark. A black screen with a blinking cursor and the word rebooting. The voice was distorted, genderless, emotionless. The wealth of the world was never meant to be held by the few. Consider this a reset. You can call it theft. We call it justice. Some hailed Phantom Root as a modern-day Robin Hood. Others called him a terrorist. The truth remained. $5 trillion had vanished into thin air. Bank executives resigned. Investigators lost their jobs. The bank itself nearly collapsed. But despite all the manpower, satellites, drones, and surveillance, no one could catch the ghost behind the code. And somewhere, in a quiet place, far from the reach of satellites and firewalls, a young man closed his laptop, smiled, and whispered, "Phase 1, complete." The hunt had stretched across continents, tracking IP anomalies in Norway, chasing decoys through abandoned data farms in Thailand, and decrypting encrypted bursts in Venezuela. After 6 relentless months, Operation Black Phantom finally closed in. It was 3:17 a.m. local time in Lisbon when the unmarked van rolled silently into a quiet residential block. The target was asleep, or so they thought. Interpol's elite cybercrime unit, backed by U.S. federal agents, stormed the fourth-floor apartment with military precision. They expected chaos, resistance, escape attempts. What they found instead was a young man sitting calmly in front of 3 monitors, hands in plain view. Arian didn't flinch when the door burst open. "Get on the ground, now!" an agent barked. He obeyed silently. No panic, no surprise. The moment his face hit the floor, the lead agent froze. It was him, the man behind the $5,000 billion heist. The most wanted digital ghost in the world. The face didn't match any databases, but the retinal scan confirmed it instantly. They had him. Secure Facility 7, location classified. Arian was kept in a soundproof, Windowless cell underground, monitored by 6 cameras and 2 armed guards around the clock. No internet, no phone, no signals. Just a table, 2 chairs, and a rotating set of interrogators. They brought in everyone: FBI, MI6, cyber psychologists, military strategists, but it always played out the same. Arian would sit still, hands folded, eyes calm. They threatened him, bribed him, isolated him, even tried psychological manipulation. Nothing worked. "Where's the money?" one agent snarled, slamming a folder full of photos on the table. Burned accounts, ruined governments, collapsed infrastructures. Arian looked at the folder, then at the agent. "You're asking the wrong question." "What's the right question?" He smiled slightly. "Why was it there in the first place?" They tried drugs, carefully administered doses meant to loosen his tongue. But Arian had trained for this. Mental resilience, breathing techniques, coded phrases he repeated internally to stay sharp. Every session became a game of cat and mouse, except the cat couldn't catch a ghost. In one session, a high-ranking intelligence officer entered, breaking protocol. "You know what you've done?" she asked coldly. "You destabilized half the world's economy." Arian met her gaze. "I revealed how fragile it really was." "What's your end game?" "There is no end game," he said softly. "Only reboot." Frustration boiled. They couldn't charge him. He'd used proxies, masked networks, non-traceable currency trails. Technically, there was no direct evidence that he did anything, and still they knew he had. Every agent who sat across from him could feel it. He was always 10 steps ahead. On day 43, things changed. The lights in the facility flickered. One of the surveillance systems crashed for exactly 11 seconds. Routine? Maybe, or maybe not. By the time they rebooted, Arian was still there, unmoved. But the guards were nervous. Something didn't feel right. On day 47, a note appeared on the warden's personal phone. No message, just a blinking file titled, "Look Deeper." Panicked, they scanned Arian's cell. Nothing. No devices, no signals, no tampering. That same night, Arian looked directly at the camera for the first time. "I'm not trapped here," he said quietly. "You are." A week later, on day 54, he vanished. No breach, no alarm, just an empty chair and a still warm cup of untouched tea. Every door remained locked, every camera still running. Yet the man simply disappeared. Authorities never explained what happened. The case was sealed, the footage classified. But among the remaining staff, rumors spread about one frame in the security feed glitching at exactly 2:04 a.m. Just one frame. A blinking cursor. Then, Phase 2 initiated. The prison was unofficially known as the Abyss, a black site facility buried beneath the Arctic permafrost, operated jointly by a coalition of intelligence agencies. No nameplates, no country flags, no contact with the outside world. It wasn't on any map, and those who entered never left. And yet, Arian, the elusive hacker known as Phantom Root, was taken there in chains. After his silent capture and months of failed interrogation, world leaders agreed he was too dangerous to kill, but far too dangerous to leave in the world. The Abyss was the answer. No tech, no connection, just 50 feet of reinforced steel, biometric locks, and a rotating guard force of elite ex-military operatives. He was placed in Cell 13, an isolation chamber with no windows, just a small steel bed, a sink, and a constantly monitored camera. No computer, no wires, no screens, just silence and time. Most men would have broken within weeks. But Arian wasn't like most men. For the first month, he barely spoke. He followed routine, kept his head down, and let them believe he was defeated. But every second, he was observing. Patterns, faces, micro-behaviors. Every shift change, every vibration through the floor, every flicker in the overhead lights. His mind mapped the prison's rhythms with mechanical precision. Then came the chessboard, brought in during his 4th week to stimulate his brain, as the prison psychologist put it. Every piece was magnetic. every square coated with conductive paint to prevent tampering. Arian played with himself, white versus black. Every move a signal, every strategy a calculation. Within that game, he began planning his escape. It started with the toothbrush. He snapped off the bristles over days and shaved down the handle using the metal frame of his bed, forming a small wedge. Then, during his limited shower time, he slipped the wedge into the tiny gap in the utility panel on the wall. A week later, it popped open for 3 seconds, long enough for him to see the wiring behind it. Color-coded, triple-shielded, but not unreachable. Next came the fabric wire. He unraveled threads from his prison blanket, twisting and braiding them into a thin cord. It took days. He used soap to stiffen it, and his shoelace tips as makeshift soldering clamps. His hands bled, but eventually he had what he needed, a functional trigger. Then came the distraction. Arian requested a face-to-face session with the prison psychologist. During the meeting, he faked a seizure, convulsing violently, foaming at the mouth. As medics rushed in, he planted a sliver of metal from a disassembled chess piece under the table leg. A simple circuit connector. That night, he triggered the power grid.
Not enough to cause a full blackout, just a blink. But in that 1-second flicker, multiple biometric systems reset. His cell door didn't unlock, but it glitched, enough for him to force it open, bruising his shoulder against the frame. Security footage showed nothing. Arian had looped the feed, recorded the last hour using a modified chip from a guard's stolen access badge, which he'd lifted during the fake seizure. By the time guards realized something was wrong, it was too late. He'd already climbed through the maintenance duct behind the utility panel, rewired the access tunnel doors, and reached the drone hangar. Arian launched one of the delivery drones manually, strapping himself beneath its belly with cargo netting and parachuting out over a snowstorm-covered wasteland. The drone was found crashed 2 hours later. The parachute was missing. So was Arian. The prison warden resigned. The psychologist disappeared. And the world woke up to a new message posted anonymously online. Plain black screen, blinking cursor.
Years passed, but Arian, known to the world as Phantom Root, became less and less a person, and more a myth. The headlines stopped tracking him. The global manhunt wound down into quiet whispers. Governments quietly shelved files marked top secret, while underground forums buzzed with theories. Had he died in the Arctic wasteland after his daring escape? Some believed so, citing the disappearance of all traces after the abyss. But others said a genius like him never truly dies. Instead, he sheds his old skin like a digital ghost, reborn under a new name, in a new place, with new plans. No official agency has confirmed either story, but the signs tell their own tale. Around the world, millions noticed a strange pattern emerging. Mysterious donations appeared in war-torn regions. Hospitals in forgotten villages suddenly had equipment upgrades. Orphanages received untraceable funds, enough to operate for years. No credit cards, no bank transfers, just money, seemingly out of nowhere. Phantom Root's signature. Governments tracked digital footprints. Encrypted wallets filled, emptied, and refilled in patterns only a mind like Arian's could engineer. Every time authorities closed in, the trail dissolved into thin air. Meanwhile, in the hacker underground, Phantom Root had become a legend, almost a symbol of rebellion. "You're not just fighting the system," a new generation of hackers would say, "you're rewriting it." Coders spoke in hushed tones about the reboot protocol, a plan rumored to upend the global financial order, redistribute wealth, and expose corruption on an unprecedented scale. Some claimed Arian was behind it. Others believed the legend had inspired countless others to rise. In a small cafe in Lisbon, a middle-aged woman glanced at her phone. A notification flashed. Funds transferred to Global Education Fund, $200 million. She smiled quietly. "Still watching," she whispered. Elsewhere, a newspaper editor received a package, an old battered USB drive with no return address. Inside, encrypted files and a simple text. "Phase 3 is live." She paused, heart racing. the world had not seen the last of Phantom Root. In the tech community, Arian's name had become a paradox. To some, he was a criminal mastermind, a digital terrorist who risked economic collapse. To others, a modern-day Robin Hood, challenging the powerful and demanding justice. Cybersecurity experts still study his hacks, trying to understand the genius behind the flawless executions. Universities include case studies about his techniques. His exploits inspired books, documentaries, even films. But Arian himself remains a ghost. Sometimes old contacts receive encrypted messages, brief, cryptic, and untraceable. Hints of new plans, new targets, new missions, always signed with the blinking cursor of Phantom Root. He's not just a hacker, one anonymous insider said. He's an idea, a movement, and in a world growing increasingly dependent on technology and fragile systems, the legend of Phantom Root serves as a reminder. No fortress is impenetrable, no system infallible, and no power eternal. Wherever Arian is now, under a new identity or perhaps living off the grid, one thing is certain: the story is far from over, because legends never truly die. They only wait for the right moment to reboot the world.